Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're from Group 1. We're going to be presenting about Chapter 11, Fundamentals of Organizing. My name is Kemal.
My name is Alaia.
My name is Dagna.
My name is Joe.
So these are the learning objectives that we are going to learn today. Next, please. The first one, we are going to discuss about organizing as a management function. Next slide, please. So, before I explain about organization structure later, let me briefly explain about organizing. Organizing is the process of arranging people and other resources to work out together to accomplish a goal. Its purpose, as one of the basic functions of management, is to create a division of labor and then coordinate results to achieve a common purpose. Next slide, please. This figure shows the central role that organizing plays in the management process. Once plans are created, the manager should see if they are carried out. Given a clear mission and strategy, organizing begins the process of implementation by clarifying jobs and working relationships. It identifies who is to do what, who is in charge of whom, and how different people and parts of organization relate to and work with one another. It is the manager's job to choose the best organizational form to fit the strategy and other situational demands. Next slide, please. So the way in which the various parts of an organization are arranged is usually referred to as the organization structure. Organization structure is a system of tasks, reporting relationships, and communication linkage. Any structure should do a good job of both allocating tasks through a division of labor and providing for the coordination of performance results. A structure that does both of these things well helps to implement an organization strategy. Next slide, please. In organizations, there are formal and informal structures. Formal structure is the official structure of the organization. There are five basics of formal structure. The first one is division of work, where a position and title shows work responsibilities. The second one is supervisory relationship, which show who reports to whom. The third one is communication channels, which show formal communication flows. The fourth one is major subunits, which position reporting to a common manager are shown. And the last one is levels of management, where vertical layers of management are shown. Next slide, please. So behind every formal structure, typically lies an informal structure. This is a shadow organization made up of the unofficial but often critical working relationships between organizational members. If the informal structure could be drawn, it would show who talks to and interacts with whom, regardless of their formal titles and relationships. A tool known as social network analysis is one way of identifying informal structures. It asks people to identify others to whom they turn to for help most often, with whom they communicate regularly, and who give them energy and motivation. Next slide, please.
So now we'll move on to the next topic, which is traditional organizational structures. Next slide, please. So there are three main traditional structures, and I will start with the first one, which is the functional structure. The functional structure is a structure that groups people with similar skills and performing similar tasks. So they are usually grouped together in a formal work unit, and members of the functional departments share technical expertise, interests, and responsibilities. The key point of a functional structure is to put together people with the same expertise, which can help them work better. So these structures usually only work well with businesses that have only a few products or services. For example, Amazon, which focuses on delivery service. So each major business function in Amazon has a dedicated group or team along with a senior manager. Strategic objective in having a structural characteristic is to enable Amazon to facilitate a successful e-commerce operation management throughout the entire organization. So this structure has several benefits or advantages and disadvantages. The first one, the first advantage is tasks given are consistent with expertise and training, as people with the same expertise or training are grouped together, so it is easier to give them assignments. The next one is there can be in-depth training and skills development within functions, as they are basically on the same level of expertise, so they can be given the same uh, treatment of training. The next one is economies of scale with efficient use of resources, because each department has their own assignments and jobs, so it prevents repetition. However, the main disadvantage of a functional structure is called the functional chimney problem. This happens when the functions become too formalized, not only on the organizational chart, but also in the mindsets of the employees. Therefore, more problems are less communicated across functions, and they typically rely on the head of the function to solve the problems. Next slide, please. So this is a diagram of a functional structure. As you can see, in the first section, there is a business firm with the president of marketing, finance, production, and human resources below him. So in this diagram, the vice president of the marketing will handle marketing problems, and the vice president of finance will handle financial problems, and so on. There's also an example for branch managers and administrator. Next slide, please. So the next structure is called the divisional structure. The divisional structure groups together people working on the same area with similar customers or on the same process. So an example for this is actually Apple, which I will elaborate further. There are four main divisional structures, which is product structure, geographical structure, customer structure, and process structure. So product structure groups together jobs and activities focused on a single product or service. They clearly link costs, profits, problem, and successes in a market area with a central point of accountability. This allows managers to be more responsive to the changing market demands and customer tastes. So, as I previously mentioned, Apple applies product structure. They have a head or a chief for each of their products to handle any product changes and adapt to the customer needs. The next one is geographical structure, which groups together jobs and activities being performed in the same location. They are typically used when there is a need to differentiate products or services in various locations, such as in different continents or different countries. So this allows the business to adjust the unique taste of each region. So in other words, they can be able to cater better to the wants and needs of the customers. The next one is customer structures, which is a structure that groups together jobs and activities that are serving the same customers or clients. The goal is to best serve the special needs of the different customer groups. So this is usually applied in the service industry, such as banks, which focuses more on customer care. The next structure is the process structure, which groups together jobs and activities that are part of the same processes. So an example of this might be how it might take form of a product purchasing team and an order fulfillment team for a mailing order catalog business. Next slide, please. So this is an example of a diagram of a divisional structure. As you can see, there's a type of structure, the focus of each type, and also the example. Just for additional information, this diagram can also be called the M diagram because of the shape of the branches. Next slide, please. So Here are the advantage and disadvantage of the divisional structure. I will start with the advantage. So a divisional structure allows more flexibility in responding to environmental changes as their focus is allocated on one particular aspect. And then expertise and responsibilities are more focused on the four categories. So people skills can be maximized as they're working on a specific field. And then there can be improved coordination across functional departments because each department have specific jobs. So it is easier for them to know what other divisions do and work together. However, the main disadvantages are it reduces economies of scale because it might increase uh, cost of operating through duplication of resources and efforts between each divisions. And there might also be unhealthy rivalry between divisions as they compete for top management attention or for a better performance. Next slide, please. Now, this is the last traditional structure. It is called the matrix structure. So the matrix structure, also usually known as the cross-functional organization structure, combines the functional and divisional approaches to create a permanent cross-functional project teams. This structure aims to get all the advantages of the two previous structures and avoid the disadvantages of the two previous structures as well. An example for this is Google. So Google has a matrix structure because of its considerable degree of flatness. This flatness is a defining structural features that supports Google growth and competitiveness. It allows Google to be open which means that it can support the culture of maximizing innovation. So, with this kind of structure, the employees in Google can feel free to give their ideas and opinions, such as meetings with managers. And also, since innovation is at the heart of the Google company, every employee will be more welcome and feel more encouraged to contribute their innovative ideas to the business. However, there are also advantage and disadvantage to the structure. The first advantage is there will be better communication and cooperation across functions because each division are more interrelated and handled by more than one manager. The next advantage is that there's improved decision making with more information available due to the nature of the openness of the matrix structure. And there can also be improved strategic management with more information available and more than one manager handling a project or a division. Now, moving on to this advantage of a matrix structure, the first one is two supervisor system or having more than one supervisor in a function or division can risk power struggles as they might not have the same opinion on solving an issue or they might have a conflict of interest. Next, there's also an additional cost of hiring an extra team leader. Uh, this is because of their expertise and their high skills. And next, a strong team loyalties towards a project or a division might lead to a bigger loss in organizational goals. Next slide, please. So this is a diagram of a matrix structure. As you can see, the yellow circles represent the people assigned to projects and functional departments, and there are managers for each of these projects and departments. The line shows that all of the activities in the business are interconnected to each other. Next slide, please.
Okay, so next we're going to talk about horizontal organization structures. So the first structure is a team structure, which uses permanent and temporary cross-functional teams to improve lateral relations. It brings together members from different functional departments and are convened for a particular task or project and are disbanded once it is completed. So the advantages for team structures are the first one, mobilizes talent and breaks down barriers. It increases the speed and quality of decisions in many situations. It boosts the employee morality and employees will have a greater sense of task involvement and identification. On the other hand, the disadvantages are conflicting loyalties for persons with both team and functional assignments. Usually team structures will have productivity issues and the quality of outcome depends heavily on how well task relationships and overall team dynamics are managed. The next structure is a network structure. It uses information technologies to link with networks of outside suppliers and service contractors. A strategic alliance is a cooperation agreement with another organization to jointly pursue activities of mutual interest. So the advantages of network structures is that it helps organizations stay cost competitive, increases operating efficiency. It allows organizations to employ outsourcing strategies and contract out specialized business functions, and it creates interesting jobs for those who coordinate the entire system of relationships. But then the disadvantages are, the first one, it makes it more difficult to coordinate the network of contracts and alliances. And if one part of the network breaks down, the entire system suffers. The organization may lose control over the activities contracted out and may also experience a lack of loyalty among contractors. So the last structure I want to talk about is called boundaryless structure. It eliminates internal boundaries among subsystems and external boundaries with external environment. A virtual organization uses IT and the internet to engage a shifting network of strategic alliances. The first advantage of boundaryless structure is that it is highly flexible, responsive, and adaptable. The second one is that it breaks down vertical, horizontal, and external barriers, so it makes communication much more easier. And it is focused on the free flow of knowledge and ideas to drive creativity, productivity, and development. On the other hand, the disadvantages for boundaryless systems is that there is lack of control and presents communication difficulties. There would usually be conflict of interest, and many boundaryless organizations are dispersed across the geographic borders, hence requires strong set of core values and a strong vision.
And now I'm going to talk about organizational designs. Organizational designs is the process of creating structures that accomplish mission and objectives. Next, please. And now it's about contingency in organizational design. A classic bureaucracy is a form of organization based on logic, order, and the legitimate use of formal authority. It is a vertical structure, and its distinguishing features include a clear-cut division of labor, strict hierarchy of authority, formal rules and procedures, and promotion based on competency. Next, please. Mechanistic and organic design. A mechanistic design is centralized with many rules and procedures. A clear-cut division of labor, narrow spans of control, and formal coordination. An organic design is decentralized with fewer rules and procedures, open divisions of labor, wide spans of control, and more personal coordination. An adaptive organization operates with a minimum of bureaucratic features and encourages worker empowerment and teamwork. Next, please. And it's about trends in organizational designs. Centralization is the concentration of authority for most decisions at the top of level of an organization. The chain of command links all persons with successively higher levels of authority. Span of control is the number of subordinates directly reporting to a manager. Tall structures have narrow spans of control and many hierarchical levels. Flat structures have wide spans of control and few hierarchical levels. Decentralization is the dispersion of authority to make decisions throughout all organization levels. Staff positions provide technical expertise for other parts of the organization. Next, please. Okay, then that concludes for our presentation. Thank you.